So when I started my photography journey over 2 years ago now, I realized that there was a huge amount of gear in the market, and it was really overwhelming to try and figure out exactly what I needed for landscape photography. At the time I just wanted everything. But in the last 2 years, I've really refined my kit down to a few essential pieces of gear. So in this video, I want to give you my top 5 essential pieces of landscape photography gear for beginners. Starting off with number 5. Number 5 is a really good backpack. So I have the Mindshift Trailscape, and it's the 18-litre version. So I recommend a backpack because when I started, I was just carrying my gear around in any old backpack, and it was getting bumped around and getting knocked. And I know a lot of cameras these days are built to withstand that type of abuse, but at the same time, what a really good backpack is for is the ability to allow you to have all of your gear organized. When you're out on a shoot and you come across a scene that's so spectacular but might be so fleeting, it's often really helpful to have all of your gear organized in a really good way so that you can pull it out really quickly, change out lenses, change out filters, or do whatever you need to do to be able to capture that shot without rummaging through a bag trying to find everything. Also, the Trailscape bag has a rain cover that comes with it as well, so it's super useful for that. It's really comfortable and it keeps all of my gear protected. So make sure that you invest in a good bag just to keep your gear organized, because when it comes to those hectic shoots, you want to know that you can open your bag and you know exactly where everything is. Number 4. Number 4 is a really sturdy tripod. I have the Benro Go Plus travel tripod, and I have the Benro B0 ball head on it. Having a really sturdy tripod when you're doing any sort of photography is super important, especially when you're shooting at such low shutter speeds. Not all cameras have optical image stabilization, so it's really important that you've got a sturdy tripod to be able to mount your camera to make sure that there's no shake in your image, which is going to result in any blurring. I went through a lot of tripods when I first started, and previous to this one I actually had a Benro travel tripod, which was a carbon fiber one, but that tripod, to be honest, was a little flimsy. The lower part of the legs just weren't as stable as this version, and so I'm super happy that I sacrificed the weight to get something that's way more sturdy. So when you're starting out, make sure you focus on getting a really good tripod, and to be honest, sometimes focusing on maybe spending a little bit more money on a good tripod is more advantageous than focusing on all the lenses that are out there, but we're about to get into the lenses. Number 3. Now, this piece of gear you might be thinking should be in the first spot, but it's not in my opinion, and we'll get to what number 1 is very soon. But in third place, it's a wide angle zoom. So I have the Fuji 10-24mm. Now, previous to the 10-24mm, I actually had a 16mm prime, which is one of Fuji's sharpest lenses. But when I was getting on location and I was looking at certain scenes, having the restriction of just 16mm frustrated me, because I was wanting it to be a little wider, or I wanted it to be, I wanted to tighten up the composition a little bit more, and so that's when I decided to invest in the 10-24, and it is amazing. I mean, 10 is so wide. It's allowed me to get some of those shots that you would have seen in previous videos of looking up the tree and capturing all of the other trees around it. It allows you to capture a lot more information in the foreground, and then have your photos lead you through the frame to the epic background. That's what's really useful about having a wide angled lens, but also having that little bit more where I'm able to zoom in and tighten up that composition is super useful. And let's face it, in landscape photography, one of the key things is capturing the entire landscape. So if you've got not only the ability to capture that large scale landscape, but also to be able to pull in your composition just a little bit, perhaps just to focus on particular details in the foreground or particular details in the background, then that is why a wide angled zoom lens is super important. Number 2. Number 2 is a circular polarizer. Now, me personally, I have the Breakthrough Photography Circular Polarizer, and I absolutely love this thing. It's completely rugged, it feels really heavy, it feels really solid, and the accuracy of the colors, by that I mean that there's no color tint in the final image, is absolutely spot on. I couldn't recommend this more. Now, a circular polarizer is super useful for when you're wanting to shoot anything that's got glare in it, or if there's anything that's hazy within your scene. The polarizer will cut through that glare and cut through that haze and bring out those details in your shot. It also really accentuates the colors in your shot as well. Now, you might be thinking that this should be replaced with an ND filter, but I often think that ND filters are for very specific shots, and they are, of course. They're meant to be able to allow you to slow your shutter speed even slower than what you are currently shooting at. So that could be to smooth out water, that could be to get those smooth clouds across the sky as well. But I only feel that that's useful in certain situations. But having a polarizer, it just opens up a world of opportunities for you and just takes your images to that next level. Okay guys, my number one thing that I think that all beginner landscape photographers should have is a telephoto lens. I personally have the Fuji 55-200 and I absolutely love this thing. So recently I had to send this away for repairs. It was away for about 6 weeks, and during that 6 weeks, which was in all of my latest videos, all I could say the entire time was, I wish I had my telephoto. There were so many scenarios in which I wanted to be able to focus on the landscape way in the distance, so I really wanted to tighten up my composition. And that's what's so good about a telephoto lens. It affords you the opportunity to capture those landscapes that are really far away, where there might be some epic light or some stunning clouds happening, or it really allows you to tighten up your composition and to focus on the finer details of a shot. I honestly couldn't recommend a better piece of gear than a telephoto lens. It really changed the way I looked at photography when I got a telephoto lens. It really forced me to think out of the box and not to think about the wide image as much. I always used to focus on, oh, I need to shoot wide, but wide-angled lenses can really shrink down your scene at times, whereas telephotos allow you to bring that scene to the viewer. So that is why a telephoto lens is my number one recommendation. Okay guys, that's this week's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd be really interested to know on what you guys think a beginner landscape photographer should have in their kit when they first start out. Make sure you leave me a comment below and let me know. If you enjoyed the video, then I'd really love it if you could give me a like, and if you want to see more like this, then make sure you subscribe. But I'll see you on the next one, guys.